Well, hello and welcome to another edition of Thortography on YouTube. I appreciate you stopping by my channel here. The other day I talked a little bit about my go-to camera, and that was the Fuji X-T2. And I didn't want to leave you with the impression that it was the best camera. It's the best camera for me, and it's the best camera for the way that I work. And it has a lot of features that are really very useful. But the best camera for me doesn't mean it's the best camera for you. And the best camera for me isn't always the best camera for me all the time. You picking up what I'm putting down? Anyway, so I wanted to introduce you to two other kinds of cameras. These are some point-and-shoot cameras. This is a Powershot A2200 HD from Canon. And you might notice something a little different about this camera. Can you tell what's different? The size, that's right. So, you know, there's some advantage to having a smaller camera. Compared to a digital SLR, the Fuji X-T2 is pretty small. Compared to the Fuji X-T2, the A2200 is pretty small. And, you know, this is an older piece of technology, but you still get some punch out of it. So there's something to be said for a dedicated point and shoot kind of camera. If you just want something to slip in your pocket or backpack, that might be the way to go. I brought this Olympus Cam C3000. Sounds pretty fancy, right? Well, it was pretty fancy in the early 2000s, I believe. It was a whopping 3.3 megapixels, which basically means that it had a pretty low resolution, but it still works. It's still useful. You can still make images with it. They're going to be a much different flavor of image than you would get from the X-T2 or this Canon A2200, but it can still work. If you're interested in making images, being creative with your limitations, that it will do the trick. You know, it's also going to be useful if you're going to a party that's early 2000s themed. You might want to bring this one along. One other thing that I'll mention just real briefly is, you know, these are three very different digital cameras. And the nature of digital technology is that it changes, and you know, the camera today will be different than the cameras of yesteryear or the future. This camera here, you know, I looked at the receipt that was in the camera bag when it was given to me, and I believe it costs about $800 when it was first purchased. Now you might be able to pick it up on eBay for a far less price. You know, so things age and they change, and sometimes they might be useful but less valuable in terms of a dollar amount. But I just wanted to introduce you to some other options. You know, the camera you have is better than the camera you don't. So if you're waiting and saving all your money and pennies for a good professional camera, that's great. But be sure you're getting out and using the camera that you have too. Making interesting images and learning to see the world a little different way. So I hope that's helpful. Be sure to subscribe and invite a friend or two if you think I said something interesting. Invite them to check it out, and I'll catch you next time.